Well, I am really, and from the bottom of my heart, absolutely thrilled to welcome back today one of the UK's most successful coaches, and that says a lot, Nikki V, who did feature on the show before, but with her amazing husband, Tony V. They're the relationship couple, and they've coached people all over the world, very, very many of them, as we were discussing relationships after 50. So, Nikki, before we get into our topic for today, which is understanding our personality profile, which is something which I've always been very fascinated by, give us a quick rundown on who you are, maybe why you do what you do and how you got to be doing it.
Well, first of all, thank you for inviting me back. I mean, I feel very privileged to be back again. And I just want to, first of all, in case I forget at the end, this fabulous after 50 is something that is so close to my heart. I'm 68 in a couple of weeks, and I've been working on being fabulous after 50.
Well, you're succeeding very well, I can tell you.
Many years. So we'll have to do a fabulous over 70 in a few years' time.
Exactly.
Anyway, and I think, you're doing a fabulous job. It's amazing. So what can I share about myself that's really valuable to people? Well, as you said, I'm best known in the last 20 years for, which is Tony and I have been together 20 years in September as well.
Congratulations.
And for being the relationship couple and assisting, couples and singles on how to have an amazing relationship. And if you put Tony and Nikki V into Google, you'll come up with loads of stuff that you can have a look at. So great. I met Tony in 2003. Before that, I had a corporate career, and I originally started as an operations director. In other words, how can I make all these companies make a load of money, And I was also a manager of people. But then, this is a bit naughty thing to say, but back then, because I was the only woman on the board, they decided if they were going to have somebody do people, that it had to be me. And I was cool with that. So I started to run our people development HR department. And the first person that ever walked into my office trying to sell me anything was the person from the disc, from Personality Stars. And actually, it's a company called Thomas International. I have used their product for now 30 years. And literally, it can tell you things about yourself, which you probably already knew, but didn't really understand why things that have happened for you in the past and things that are happening to you right now are affecting the quality of your life, because you're not operating quite as in your natural.
I didn't even know that about you.
So that was my first personal development. And I actually was asked by the company, because I put it into our company. I had £1 million budget. I had 3,000 people to look after, and a £1 million budget. And the first thing I did, I spent £100,000 on having the Thomas people from DISC come in and teach the philosophy that I'm going to share today. Perfect. Because, and then they asked me to go around the country. They used to pay me a lot of money, actually. They used to go around the country to tell other companies how valuable it is for people, for development, for recruitment, for blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
So I was already pretty addicted to it before I came across Tony Robbins and Brandon Bays and all the other.
Switched completely and went full term into this.
I stayed in corporate life till 99, so I was there 15 years, and we got taken over. And so I decided, by then I'd done lots of Robbins. I'd trained as a coach with Tony Robbins, and I decided to, go
do your stuff. Yeah.
Self-employed. So I became a corporate coach, executive coach in London. And the first thing I used to do with people when they became a client of mine was put them through a personality style test. And as I said to you earlier, Julie, you don't have to do the thing online, because if I have enough time with a person, I can find out through asking them questions, are they operating in their natural style? Because as you said, your natural style is something that absolutely will work for you.
Yeah, it flows, right? Everything just sort of happens.
You're in the zone, you're in a good place, you're not trying to be something you're not. You're basically being you, the real you, And when I find out, as I said to you, literally hundreds and hundreds of people where I've coached them or I've put them through the computer thing, is I find that they're actually operating not in their natural style. So they're not having the life they want to have. They're having an experience that's either based on a reaction to the past and significantly or specifically a significant emotional event, or they're just in their fear. They're just frightened of being unsafe or failing or rejected or, we're just in fear. In which
Right.
case, that means you're, I'm going to say something contentious, of course,
Go
your
for it.
path has
Yeah.
chosen not the real you.
That's true, actually.
How can I try? I'll be gentle today, but you're teaching your children not the real you. So, for me, this is so important. It's like in every, relationship couple that we help, or in any single that I coach on being fit, wealthy, healthy, whatever I coach them on, I always come down to this situation where I go, look, it's a bit like the great coaching question. If you had no fear, what would you do?
What would you do?
What would you do? So came across it, learned loads about it, loved it, taught it. I've got loads of people out there who've had the Nikki V version of personality style and are using that with their clients and with their families. And so some of the most humbling experiences is when I've been working with people and I've worked with their children.
Right.
And so I've worked with them and found out that even at that very crucial time, my grandson's 14 now. He is now starting, as they all do, my 10-year-old grandson, he's got a personality.
Right.
Style. But as they get into that teenage and they really find their feet of who they are going to be, if they operate from fear, they're never going to have the future they want. Their whole life is affected.
Exactly.
So it's been very humbling sometimes to work with someone and to be very close with them, a child or a teenager, and to find out that they're fearful already.
Right. That's a great way to begin, because of course we're talking about fabulous after 50 here. And discovering who we are truly so that we can be, fully happy and deliver all the gifts that we're here to deliver is a work of a lifetime. But however, that's a very important point you've just brought out, because I was going to ask you, what is a personality style and how old are we when we then know it? So your personality, that's the thing which is right inside you, right? The raw core, not yet affected by past experiences or what people have said to you and all the rest, right?
Absolutely. And the thing is, when you say, how do you know it? The difficulty is that what happens is we think the person that we show to the world, the style we show to the world, is us. When in actual fact, it's sometimes a unconscious, clearly, or conscious way of protecting ourselves. It's
coping, right?
It's an egoic driven persona. And the problem is it won't work as well as your real persona. I created a little saying, which I absolutely love, or I may have heard it somewhere, because clearly nothing's new, is that how crazy is it that we think that the person we present to the world is so much better than the real us? Because the real us does have fears, yes, has vulnerabilities, especially as women, and does have needs.
And that's a good thing,
we go away from the fear and we go into our natural style, which is devoid of fear. So it's who we are when we are at our best version of ourselves in the zone. We're not in fear. We're having the life we're meant to have, right? When we operate in that place, we have to be out of fear, otherwise we can't be natural. And so the problem is we go, well, I think it'd be better if I, and I'm still working on this.
But Nikki, just one thing, how old are we when our personality is fully developed?
Oh, big question. Now, I'll answer it in a slightly different way. The debate in the psychometric testing personality style world, which is now huge, by the way, is it nature or nurture?
Right. Very
right.
clever. Yes.
And the people that I trust, my mentor, a gentleman called Ray Reid, who was, one of my mentors, and he's now must be 100 if he's still alive. Bless him. I hope he is still alive. And he was the person that brought DISC, which is the one I use, to the UK and then to 27 other countries. And they sold out for millions and millions of quid, what have you. But anyway, it was one of my first mentors. And he used to say to me, it's nature and nurture. So basically, we come, depends on your belief, where you come from. Let's not go there. We come with our DNA, our style, what are my genes? Am I more like my dad or my mom? But when I look at my grandchildren, you see, I can see that one of them is more like their mom, one's more like their dad.
Already very early, right?
Yeah. But they have a very unique personality style. And that comes from the combination of mom and dad, or by the way, anybody else that has an influence, doesn't it? Because many people are not brought up by their natural mom and dad. So then I think we come with it, and then it's affected. And the quick way I can sort of give you that is that in my family, I am a combination of two profiles. We'll get there in a minute. Right, combination of two profiles. And one of my profile types, nobody in my close family has. Not my dad, not my mom, not my brother. But I was influenced by two other women. One was my dad's sister, my aunt, and the other was my best friend's mom.
Right.
And they had this profile type.
Right.
And I can't remember, but I think I can remember. Maybe if you're listening to this, you might put this thought in your mind and go, can I remember who I looked up to, who I thought I want to be like that, or like who I had a great respect for, or who I, sort of felt like had got their act together, which I'm sure was not true, but like it felt like that. So I think the programming, a lot of people think that's just parents, but I think
of course
we're affected
because it's school as well, right? What teachers have said and all the rest.
And I mean, it's funny. It's like I've never thought about school, but I think about the teachers that I can remember all those years ago,
right?
The ones that will have influenced me.
Yeah. Okay, so basically what I hear you saying is basically that we have a core personality. Let's say we're born with it, and then it does get affected by, in good and in bad, by people around us, about experiences and all of that. And that basically by the time we're at 50 plus, it's about remembering or unveiling and discovering who that true personality is there underneath all the accumulated luggage that we've put about,
so that we can live that. Because I'm not suggesting everybody has the same experience, because I remember going to see a speaker once and they said, oh, you must be in this bad state and you must be, and I felt like going, well, actually I'm not. I've actually done quite a lot of work on myself, and yes, I'm always a work in progress, but come on, not everybody's deeply depressed and wants to and so I think that what we do after 50 is we probably give ourselves a bit more time to think about how we present ourselves, and to sort of understand, look, is the way that I'm operating, which is a different way of saying how we present ourselves, because it's the decisions we make and the way we run our lives, rather than just how we show up. We probably after that age start to give ourselves a bit more time to just be a bit more aware, a bit more self-aware.
And we also know ourselves a bit better, I think.
We do.
And maybe beat ourselves up a little bit more, that we that we own more of the, okay, so, this and this happened and I wasn't very good at this, but not drowning under it, but looking at it with a little bit more of, stepping back a bit.
Definitely. So what's most important is that we are super self-aware. In which case this session could be really helpful, because we'd be asking us, as I'm sharing things, if people ask themselves the question, is that me? Or is that me when I'm trying to stay safe? Or is that me when I'm not in a good state? Is that me when I'm a bit frustrated? And therefore, because what happens when I run the personality style on the computer is actually, this is unique to the Thomas one that I use, is the natural style, which is, I believe, where you are for life. Now, you can move around a bit, but you're never going to change to be the opposite or anything like that.
No, because I like that. But my innate reaction to this, and I mean, I know you're very much a free thinker, Nikki, too. And so the idea that you have loved this from day one reassures me. But I mean, first of all, I don't like labels, and I don't want to feel that I'm Cinderella being squashed into a personality profile. And you've mentioned computer a few times, where I'm a bit like, I don't want a computer to tell me who I am, sort of thing.
No. Let me just make that clear. Is that this is just the computerized version of what we used to do on pieces of paper, and it's just the multiple questions that helps the computer or the calculation decide things that we don't know ourselves. So
recognizing patterns, right?
I would need to spend hours with somebody delving right into how they operate when they are actually out of fear. Or so the second thing that it shows is how you may have reacted or responded to a significant emotional event in your life. So when people think about a significant emotional event, just notice for a moment, if you're listening to this now, just notice for a moment, look back and go, did I act differently in some way, however
Right.
subtly, or however unconsciously? Because often sometimes we have to look back and go, God, I didn't even know I was doing that then.
Yeah.
Because of some significant emotional event. Because when we have a significant emotional event, either negative or positive, but most people think of a more negative one,
Yeah.
what happens is we often react very strongly in some
Yes.
way by either going, I'm never going to trust anybody again, type example, or I'm always going to go towards that kind of thing because I know I'm going to be safe or whatever.
Yeah.
We're basically trying to prevent it happening again. So whether that's rejection or failure or uncertainty or whatever, and when I'm doing those 4 things, I'm actually starting to tell you about the 4 different styles.
Okay,
Well,
so the topic today is indeed
yes.
understanding how your
Understand.
personality profile can massively affect your life,
it.
right?
Yes.
So there's a quantity of them, right? There's an amount of profiles.
For simplicity, right. This comes from Hippocrates. It's eons old. And there's a fabulous book, a tiny little book. And it's got the worst title on the planet. And the guy is probably going, how come I'm selling so many books now from Amazon? It's called Success in Psychometric Testing. Now, if you can spell psychometric, you better. The reason, by Derek White. Okay. So the reason why I'm talking about that book is because in that book is where I learned where it actually all comes from. And it comes from Hippocrates' belief, Hippocratic Oath. Right, for doctors, it comes from a belief on human psychology, basically. And it says all of our operating principles, all of our personality styles fit nicely into 4 main categories. And it makes it simpler for us to decide who we are and what we do. So, and whether it's working for us or not is obviously the secondary thing to look at. So Hippocrates said that basically we fit into dominance, influence, steadiness, or he called it conscientiousness. We now, in modern terms, call it compliance, right? So there's 4 main styles. So if we just look at those at a very high level, okay. So if you remember those 4, and so if you're listening to this, it'd probably be good just to write at the top of a piece of paper, dominance, influence, steadiness, and compliance across the top in that order. And then just to make it real simple, more modern approaches to it give it a color.
Okay.
It's a different company than I work with, but with the on disc, because they're not allowed to call it disc. They call it a color. And the dominance is red, fiery red, kind of, get it done type of stuff. Influence is yellow, sunny disposition. Yes.
Yes.
Steadiness is green.
Grounded earth.
Look at our lounge. Who do you think chose the color? Right? And I had a house before this one, bright yellow lounge everywhere. That gives you a clue to my first. And so also steadiness is green, and then compliance is blue. This is more precise, more, I could use the word cold, but I'll use cool. It's more factual, right? So now if you've got that written down, I'm just going to give you, I always teach this by comparison because it's so much easier for the brain to deal with. So if you look at dominance and compliance, which are on your left and your right, if you're looking at a piece of paper, dominance and compliance both share task orientation, meaning they think task before they think people. So you talk about a thing and they will go task, how, instead of who. Okay. Now, because they're task oriented, they're left brain orientated. I do the very simple approach, left and right. Right. We've both got left and right. Men and women different, but let's not go there. Right. So left brain. So this dominance and compliance is left brain orientated, tasky, facts, logical, practical. Okay. And they share that. And I'm going to say a word now, masculine. But this doesn't mean men or women. It's just a more masculine tendency because it's more left brain. So the facts are men are more left brain or I'm now going to tell you how they're completely different. So I'm still on dominance and compliance, and they're both this left brain, logical, practical. Now, dominance is about I, which is I want to have the freedom there's a word, which is much more high dominance. I'll just keep this hand up to get our spatial awareness correct. I want to be able to decide, act and do. They're action orientated people. Okay.
Right.
And if you want a line to write down so that you can spot a high dominance person, they're likely to be saying in some way, let's just fucking do it. Now, excuse me.
That rings a bell.
Excuse me for swearing, but it's relevant because it's not just, let me try and do this in a different tone. Oh, let's just get a hoe. Let's just do this. Let's just fucking do it. It's got that sort of intensity about it.
Yeah.
So they're very intense people. Hello. And they are action oriented. They're about results. They want end goal. They think about end goal. They think about the hurdles, but their timeline is, I'll worry about that when I get there.
Right.
Direct, assertive, Now, can I just put a little thing in here? This does not measure intellect.
No. Yeah.
Measure academic intelligence. It doesn't mean you're good at it. It just means that that's your tendency.
Yeah.
But this is, I want to decide, act and do it. It doesn't mean I'm good at that.
No.
Right? Because the fear here is failure. Much more than anybody else. The fear here is failure, in which case they tend to be a bit like a bull in a china shop. They go, well, I'll worry about that when I get there. That 99% of people here are low steadiness, meaning they're fast pace. Right. 99% of the people I've come across. Right. Now, I could go on for ages about that, but I won't.
But we mustn't, because otherwise we're not going to get them all in. We've got about 10 minutes left.
So the next thing I'm going to do is talk about compliance. Okay. Now, you heard that. That's, I want this.
Yes.
Yes. I'm going towards what I want. This is, you see, I don't have this. Could you see that? Yeah. 30 years, I still have to stop and think. Take that in.
Because it's not something that you relate to.
That's how powerful personality style is. I have been doing this for 30 years. I still have to stop and think. So this is, I want to get things done. This is, how do we decide what to do? Right. How to do it? What process are we going to use? What methodology? Because don't forget, we're in task still, left brain. And this is about the methodology, the formula, the how to do it.
Right.
Not the end result. If you're talking to people here about the end result, they'll go, well, I don't know what you mean. We've got to decide how we're going to do it first. These people go, no, well, we'll just get there. Yeah. Right. And so this person is much more, you could say, cold and calculated, that they're proud. They go, I'm not emotional about that. They're non-emotional. And they are just wanting to make sure, okay, risk taker, risk averse. So the line is, why would people be so stupid as to take risks? Why wouldn't you do all your research, your due diligence, and then you will make a decision once you've looked at all the options? Do you get the difference?
So Nikki, why would it be important to know that? How does knowing that make a difference? You know, if we do the test.
So knowing makes a difference is, say I'm a high compliance person. Right. Well, I prefer to use the word conscientious because they like that better.
Yeah.
Right. But actually, they're not so, because they're not emotional. You see, you've just given a good example. Because they're not emotional, they would go, yes, I'm very compliant. I like to, things need to be done correctly. See this? This is high compliance. Right. Yes. And what's important is that then they're comfortable with it.
Right.
They're going, yeah, that's who I am, and that's what I want to be like. And then the problem is they look at somebody, I'm going to be there, I should have hand puppets now. They look at somebody like this and they go, well, maybe if I just did what they're doing. Yeah. This is in personal development, this is huge. This is, well, if I just did what they're doing, you know, my son's quite well known in personal development, and he's this, well, like me, guess what, of course. And he has people come along and he's very clear. He goes, look, this is what we want to achieve, but you must do it your way. Right. So this is like, I'm going to feel happy with me, but I'm also going to notice, here's the important thing, how difficult it might be for people who are not this profile to understand me.
So it's also making you more aware of how other people are thinking, and not say I'm right and you're wrong, but to understand how other people can maybe. So that's also important for in business or in families.
because actually the other way that I share this, it's very difficult without slides, is that I put the line down the middle and I go, these people, which is you and me actually, right? And these people, you can even split those that way. So I'm splitting them like this and this. You can split it that way. And these people go towards things and these people go away from what they don't want. And they go, why would you just, but you know, why would you just go? And then they go, and then they get people go, well, just do it.
Yeah,
you know,
but I mean, as we've understood, this is, you know, I mean, we're not going to be able to get into all the different profiles and what they look like. And I do hope that people listening or watching will follow this
your
up
question
via your
was
link.
so important, is why would it be worthwhile? So it's to really be happy with yourself. And to notice when you try and be something else, it will cause you pain.
And we know that by now. And that's my whole point, is that by 50 plus, we know when we're not being ourselves, or we know what keeps us awake at night.
Or we're trying to copy somebody else.
Yeah, exactly.
And so the other two, and I'll do these two now. So the other two are influence and steadiness, if you've got that written on your piece of paper. Now, these are both people-orientated profiles, which means this is not, by the way, nothing's better than, it's just you or not you, basically, right? And these are people-orientated profiles, which means they're right brain.
Right.
Emotions, feelings. It's not the how or the what or the task. It's the implications. It's the effect on people. So it's all about people. Okay. And as we've all rightly said, is that most people, very rarely are people one of these things.
Yes.
Dominance, influence, steadiness, or compliance. Most commonly, they're 2 or 3. You can't be 4. Because if you try and
then you're all going against yourself.
People that I've profiled where they've come out trying to be all 4, their lives are because they're trying to be something to everybody. And they're trying to be something that they're not naturally. So influence and steadiness, both right brain, both people orientation. Now, this is how they're different. High influence. How can I influence people so they have a better blue sky, big picture? It's all about being positive,
right?
Things, but it's a very much, it's called high influence and it's called high I, because this is about, I want to do this. I want to, I'm driven to make a difference. You'll hear people say. Now, you might go, oh, this sounds like a nice profile. The difficulty is that person sometimes isn't thinking of others,
right?
And going, well, hold on a minute, let me be positive, but let me be realistic and go, some people are not doing well at the moment.
It's also thinking that your way is then the way which will help others, right?
They're very verbal, friendly, blue sky thinking. They want to go towards things. They like to shine. They like to stand out. They're the ones that get dressed in the morning and then by 11 o'clock they look a mess, you know, because they're moving their hands. Hello, right? And their fear is to be rejected. So they take it very personally. So that can sometimes prevent them from actually doing what they want to do. A dear friend of mine was brought up in very much in a high compliance. Her father was a policeman, very high compliance. And she wanted to be a ballerina. And of course, he told her this was stupid. And so she just used to twirl around in her bedroom. She's now in her 60s. Of course, she's never danced and, you know, never been able to. And wants to, you know, if you meet her tomorrow,
break out.
She'd go, hello, because she's found herself. It's too late for her to become a ballerina. My point is, it's about shining.
Yeah.
High steadiness, which, remember, this is still right brain, this is still people orientated, this is the person who wants everyone else to be happy. So they're not wanting to be in the light.
It's fascinating. This is not what I think I should be. This is not what I think sounds right. This is not, you know, the image that you've maybe 50 plus years, you know, created and maintained for whatever reason. This is about really getting to your core.
So I was just going to say, just to finish off on the high steadiness, their fear is of feeling uncertain.
Okay.
Right. So if you think fear of failure, fear of actually the high compliance, I didn't really explain that comprehensively, fear of conflict. In other words, fear of having too many options, fear of chaos. They like things just so, black and white. High influences, their fear is rejection, which I said. But you see, high steadiness is its fear of feeling uncertain. The biggest thing for people with steadiness is that they want to know what's going to happen in the future.
Right.
They
Which
want to
none
know
of us
where they're going to
can,
be
right?
living.
Yeah.
They want to know where their relationship, they want to know how much money they're going to have there, all those types of things. And that's why I recognized cruising, because we've decided we're going to spend 12 years on, until we can't. And because we realized we were going to buy a house, sit in it, and, be retired kind of thing, And we went, no, because that's not who we are. That doesn't make somebody wrong who wants to buy
No,
a lovely house by the sea. It was more of a fear about security than it was a natural style. So that's a good example. So there's your 4.
The purpose today was more to raise awareness to, okay, what are personality styles and why is it so crucial for us in this sort of, if not now, when period of our lives, whether we're 50, 60, 70. So this is something that can be done online or can be done in person.
Yes. Let me just give a bit of a caveat as well. Is there are lots of free disc profile things online.
Okay.
And it's not just me saying this. Lots of people who have been in this business a long time say it. They are useless because they haven't got an algorithm. They haven't got somebody who's been doing it 30 years. People fill it in by what they'd quite like to be like or what they think they're like. All my experiences is it comes out and I know people now teaching this who think they're high dominance profiles and they're not.
Right.
It's because they're still in their fear profile.
Right.
And they go into that and they try and push themselves to be like that. So I would totally recommend that you don't do that. There are other profiles that you can Google and they'll give you a link and you can pay, it's about 80, £100 or something, and they'll send you a report. Now, it could be helpful, a little bit helpful to you to get a thing. But the problem with the report is it's not you. So you haven't got anybody asking you questions. So it's going to go, it may be that you are this, or this. So it's difficult for a lady.
No, that's not what we want, because I think we've been saying to ourselves enough times, maybe you are this and this. But so how do you do it, Nikki?
Yeah. So what I do is either somebody's having me coaching with me, in which case I could do it without using it. But other than that, I do a special
off sort of thing.
About an hour and a half. It's not, not for the faint-hearted, because as you can see, there's lots of ways I can go through this, as well as really help people understand those 3 things: who they are naturally, how they've responded and adjusted, because sometimes people are adjusting to abuse or difficulties in a childhood and they're 60 and they're still responding to it, right? Or are they operating in their stress graph? And I go through it in detail and I run the profile and I show them the profile on graphs and I explain it all to them and I coach them on how to be more in their natural style. To be honest, this is something I do an hour and a half session. If you go to the link that Julie's going to send you, it will say this is for couples, because obviously Tony and I work with couples I don't normally work on my own doing this. It's just something that happens to be on our website. It says it's £500 for 1 session, right? I'm more than happy to do 2 sessions. In other words, a disc session and then a follow-up coaching session for people for that. I'm going to send them a profile. I'm going to run that on my computer thing, right? And then I'm going to do a 1.5 hour session and I'm going to show them and I'll record it on Zoom so that they can have it forever. And I will then give them things also, which obviously I've done this, but I had got prepared because I thought we were going to share the screen, but obviously not the podcast people. But I've got things that you could literally print off and put in your office so that you could look and see, where am I operating from and all.
I mean, I think we really owe it to ourselves to do it. So just to finish off, Nikki, what will this bring them?
Okay. So imagine the thing in your life that's not working, that again and again and again has brought you to your knees or brought you down. And imagine that through not just awareness of where it's come from, how it's become a habit, how it's just become who you think you are, you started to understand the impact it's had, how it's affecting all parts of your life, and then most importantly, what to do to start to behave. It takes time. Let's not pretend it doesn't take time to be so super aware of yourself that you recognize, say, little bell will go off and I'm just going to hear the bell and then I'm just going to take a moment. I'm going to breathe and I'm just going to go, how can I be myself? And so, yeah, I mean,
Well, that is what I wish for all of us,
you
right?
can't
Yeah.
make the money I want.
Yeah.
Can't get into the relationship I want to be. Oh, let's not even go there with how people are choosing the wrong people.
Nikki, we are going to have to stop.
I know.
I wish we didn't, because you just have so much value to share. And what I take from this is that we do all know when we're not being fully ourselves, and that we owe it to ourselves to get the help that we need. These are the sort of things that we owe it to ourselves to clear out once and for all, that we've got, 10, 20, 30, 40 years to fully be who we are and live the life that we know is ours. So Nikki, thank you very much. For the rest of you out there, click on the link, contact Nikki, and let's move out of the fear zone so that we can really shine, right?
Yes, thank you for having me, as my mom always used to tell me to say.
Very good, Nikki, very good. Well, it was, as always, a pleasure, and I do hope you will be back soon. Take care, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye, bye-bye.